Now I want to talk to you about creating an XSD, because you can tell that these things aren't going to be the simple little coding up kind of a situation like a DTD was. Now, do you have more power? Obviously you do. Do you have to write a lot more code to create an XSD? Yes, you have to write quite a bit more code. Now, I'm going to show you a trick here, and I really want to avoid the Microsoft XML world arguments and complaints that a lot of people have. I'm going to use a Microsoft tool here. I've got Visual Studio.NET 2003 on my machine, so I want to open you up and show you this little trick. Now, everybody else has these. Java has them in some of their graphical user interfaces and the various tools and command tools and so forth. A lot of people have these. I'm just going to show you the .NET one. Notice I've opened a simple XML example here in Visual Studio.NET. This is a VBNet application. And what I'm going to do is right-click on XML example, and I'm going to add an existing item to my project. So what I've done here is, notice I'm looking for XML files. If you're using .NET Visual Studio, you may have to change that. But choose XML, and notice I'm going to bring in the people XML file. And notice if I double-click this and open it up, you'll see the XML file that we've been looking at throughout most of the course. Now, as XML has kind of expanded and taken over the world, a lot of things have happened. Number one, this need to validate the data has become more important, and the need to work with XML data. And that's one thing that's kind of cool here is, notice if I want to add somebody else into this XML document, I've basically got to copy all of this stuff, right? And then go back and change the text. There is a data tab down here that I can click and go in and change this stuff and add a new person here. Bob's 50 and he's employed. And if I go back, you'll notice that I added Bob down here. I didn't get the wife. I'd have to go back and add that. But for now, let's just take this out and don't create any problems for ourselves. Now, I need an XSD on this because this is the way I want to see my information. And if you want to send me information, you're going to have to send it in an XML document that has this particular structure. So notice what I can do. On my menu up here, the XML choice is there, and if I click it, notice it says Create Schema. Well, if I click this, notice a People XSD shows up over here. Now, that was pretty tough, right? Notice it also added a link to it right here. Now, this brings up some pretty rough debates among a lot of people, but don't worry about that right now. Notice if I double-click the XSD and go to the XML version of it down here on the bottom, notice here is my XSD document. And if you'll notice, it looks very similar to the one that we looked at in a previous video. This is how I generated it. Now notice, I didn't have to type any of this. I simply generated it. So if I go back to my People XML document and tell it that this thing is not a standalone document, what I can do now is go to XML, validate the data, and notice down here at the bottom it says no data validation errors were found. So I can easily validate in this tool as well. Now, let's say that I created or I imported an XML document, another XML document, and tried to validate it against this, and let's just say that this one had ages right here instead of age. Notice what happens if I try to validate that. It's telling me, wait a minute, clown, you got some problems here. The schema doesn't support the element ages. And then it goes on to say that the wife has an invalid child element ages and so forth. So I have to go back and fix that. So that is the way to generate these XSD documents. That's in the .NET world. There's a lot of other ways to do it, but I just wanted you to see that most people nowadays are generating their XSD. But let me give you a warning here. You had better be able to go in and read this stuff, because there's times that you're going to want to make some changes to it and adjust it. These graphical tools are fabulous, but make sure you understand what's going on in the actual XSD code, because you're going to hit that point one day where you've got to go in here and hack this thing and make it do more, or make it be more restrictive than what it originally was.